Of my eyes from these late night games out in the Bay Area with the they were first place when they left. Now it's a shared position for the Orioles, and the Ravens are fighting for health and who's got a job and who's going to do what. And they'll be doing that on Thursday night with the Carolina Panthers. This guy covers all things Ravens and resides sometimes out in the Bellagio out in Owings Mills. He is a writer reporter for the Ravens digital media team at Ravens.com. He is Garrett Downing. You can follow his journey out on Twitter at GDowning14. It is football season. Been a little while for you and I. How's life? How's your suntan doing out there, Garrett?
Yeah, it's nice. It's football season is here. It's hard to believe that there's a preseason game this week. It kind of crept up on us a little bit. We're sort of entering the dog days of training camp, and I'm excited. I know that people, the preseason lacks a little bit of luster, and people have their criticisms of it, and a lot of that's fair, but at the same time, that first preseason game I think is exciting. I can't wait to see football being played, tackles being made, all of that. I just am excited for this week.
For the guys that are actually going to get on the field on Thursday, I still think a huge part of the story for much of the fan base will be the guys who aren't on the field on Thursday. I'm sort of kind of assuming Joe Flacco isn't going to play. I'm sort of kind of assuming Ronnie Stanley isn't going to play. But certainly the Suggs, the Doomervilles, the Steve Smiths. But it's more like the little nagging things that have happened this week with the Max Williams and the Campaneros, among some other guys, that it's got to be frustrating to John at this point, because you want the full complement of players, and it's not going to be full. But the last couple of days, there have been one too many guys going down for my tastes.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain guys that you expect to play a lot in the preseason, and especially the first game, that are kind of dinged up. Ronnie Stanley, maybe he doesn't need to play, but I think the Ravens absolutely would like him to play a little bit. He's a rookie. And if you look traditionally at rookies, even first-round picks, they play a lot in the preseason. They play late in the games. And so they have to get familiar going up against NFL talent. And so even a guy like Max Williams, he's got a lot of reps under his belt from last season. But, he's somebody that is a young player they would like to see on the field a little bit more. And so you hope that his injury is something that lingers into the game. And then Campanero, too. Campanero is one. That's really a wild card. That's kind of been the story of this guy's career so far, that he's dealt with these injuries that have held him back. But at the same time, you see the talent. You see the ability when he gets on the football field. And I think that's why when John Harbaugh talked this week about Campanero and how much he likes him as a player and likes him as a guy because he's such a hard worker, you could see that he wants Campanero to get healthy and to kind of win a spot and to be an important piece of this offense. And so you hope that his, latest strain isn't something that's going to linger into throughout the preseason or anything like that. So, I would not expect to see many of the starters for much, if at all, particularly the veterans. What you probably will see is some of the younger players that are on the first team. Even guys, people, and especially guys competing for jobs. Somebody like a Zach Orr who's fighting for a starting inside linebacker job. Even though he could be a starter, he's going to probably go out there and play a decent amount because they want to get a good look at him in the preseason.
Well, between him and Kamalei Correa, maybe one of the more interesting, sort of battles for playing time. I'm sure both of them are going to see the playing field plenty of time this year. But Correa has really sort of stepped up and become a guy that looks like he's going to be a fine football player.
Yeah, Correa has. He plays the little edge. There was a lot talked about, a lot written about after he got into a scuffle with Dennis Pitt at stadium practice last week. And, he plays with that edge. He plays with that nastiness. And I have no problem with that. And he's also shown to me that he's got pretty good coverage skills, what you need at that inside linebacker spot. You're not in a position there where you're just rushing the quarterback. You have to be able to be a little bit of a Swiss Army knife. And the Ravens have put a lot on his plate. He's playing inside. He's playing outside. And DPs even have said recently, we're pretty much throwing everything at him, maybe even a little too much. We're loading it up for him. And so they're going to see what he can do. And I will say this, though. I like Correa a lot. I think he's going to be a good player on this defense. But I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that he beats out Zach Orr at inside linebacker. Orr is still taking a lot of snaps with the first team next to C.J. Mosley, and it could be a situation where they alter who's on the field based on the personnel for the offense. Maybe if they want more of a pass rusher, Correa's out there. If they can do a lot of different things, and I think that's sort of the beauty of Kamalei Correa is that he can play so many spots, and so you have those options at your disposal.
Garrett Downing from Ravens.com joining us here talking all things Ravens preseason. I guess through all of this, the little issues in the nits and who's going to be in the lineup, the most important thing for the Ravens over the last 8 months has been getting number 5 onto the field. And whether he plays on Thursday or doesn't, and, it's my prediction that he won't, and even if he does, it'll be so minimal you won't notice it anyway. A couple of handoffs and a flare pass, and he'll be out of the game. But his health has been the overwhelming story over the first 2 weeks of camp, that how good he's looked and how rear view mirror, at least to the naked eye, if you're out there watching him throw the football around, minus the brace on his leg that becomes obvious when you see it. But he doesn't see it. He doesn't feel it. You don't notice that he was missing last year. It feels like sort of regular Joe Flacco camp in progress right now.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to a reporter the other day at practice, and basically the conversation was, the Ravens have a lot of questions with guys like Terrell Suggs and Steve Smith and Perriman, and, we can name off all the questions. And as we're sitting there talking, I said, it's kind of funny that you don't even point to Joe Flacco as a question anymore. But, 3 weeks ago, everyone was saying, how's he going to look? And that was the biggest question of camp going into it, is Joe Flacco going to be the same guy? Is this injury going to hold him back at all this summer, or is it going to take him a while to get back into the form where you expect it to be? From what I've seen, he's good to go. He looks the exact same, and it's such a forgotten thing. Like your point, unless you actually see the knee brace that he's wearing, you don't even think about the fact that he's coming off torn ACL. So I think that he's going to be the same player that we've seen here for the last several years. And he also, I'll tell you this, he's built chemistry with some of these new weapons. Ben Watson and Mike Wallace. I've been kind of pleasantly surprised and impressed with Mike Wallace. He's catching a lot of touchdowns and getting a lot of action from Flacco, both in the intermediate routes as well as some of the deep balls. So, I think Joe has some weapons, and it's going to be even more exciting when you get Steve Smith, Crockett, Gilmore, Brashad Perriman, Dennis Ditta, all those guys back. He'll probably have a little bit of fun with that this year.
You've been around for all this, Garrett, and through the Super Bowls and guys leaving and coming and veteran guys, and the exits of the Reeds and the Lewis and the Matt Burks and those guys, and now the entrance of, as you've mentioned, Wallace, who we've talked less about than I think Weddle and Watson, and certainly Weddle has become a presence, right? I mean, literally within just a couple of months and really a couple of weeks of practices, he looks to be the part of the veteran guy that feels comfortable. I think the teammates are comfortable around him, and certainly the coaches love him.
Oh, yeah. It reminds me of when Steve Smith came in 3 years ago, and like a week on the job, Steve was the clear leader of the wide receiver room. And everyone sort of looked at him as the leader of the pack in that group. It's very similar with the defensive backs this year. Eric Weddle, it's not, and it's kind of nuanced here. The way I would describe it, he did not come in here and try to take over and say, I am going to tell you what to do because I have Pro Bowls to my name and I'm a veteran player and I got a big contract. It wasn't that. It was, I'm just going to come here and be myself. He's got an engaging personality. People gravitate towards it. And his resume speaks for itself. And I think that when people see him on the field, his teammates see him on the field, and the way that he communicates, the way that he has an eye for the football, a nose for the football, then everyone else says, I want to get on board. I want whatever that guy's having. And so that's the way that I've kind of seen it. And he can play. I think he absolutely can still play at a very high level. And I think that he's going to transform that secondary this year. And one of the things that, if you talk to a lot of the, coaches or players, the sense that I get from them is they really think the secondary is good. They really think the secondary is good. And I have high hopes for that group this year.
Everybody's told me how fast the defense is played, and that's something that was obviously disconcerting when things weren't going well, especially against Tom Brady in the second half a year and a half ago. The back end of the defense had to be better, and Lord knows Ozzie has drafted for it, signed for it, whether it was the Will Hills or Michael Huffs. I mean, we've been through so many. Arrington still here. I mean, bringing in guys from other organizations. It would be nice to enter week one feeling good about the secondary instead of feeling, well, that's the weak link on the team, and that's the part we've got to worry about. I mean, certainly Carolina comes in on Thursday night. Everybody I've talked to in Carolina, they're worried about their secondary. It's not a good thing to be worried about before the season begins because it probably isn't going to get better.
Yeah, it's true. And cornerbacks are so valuable in today's NFL. I mean, I just go back to the 2014 season where, that Patriots game in the divisional round and 2 14-point leads, and the Ravens really kind of had that game won, but they couldn't hold a lead because they didn't have the horses to run with the kind of Tom Brady in that passing attack. And I still think, if Jimmy Smith, that was the year that Jimmy Smith got hurt midway through that season, and he was playing left down. I think if he's healthy, I think the Ravens win that game, and he's on the field. So anyway, that just kind of shows you how important the secondary is. You need a lot of guys there. The Ravens don't have a ton of depth on the outside. If something were to happen, they don't. And to be honest, not a lot of teams do.
Right.
It's not like there's a ton of teams that are sitting there. Yeah, we got a couple Pro Bowl corners that are going to be a third and fourth option. That's not really the way it goes.
Well, we got a first round and a second round safety, right, that we've taken in the draft that probably aren't going to get on the field much and might not even make the team, quite frankly, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think Matt Elam and Terrence Brooks are battling for a roster spot. I don't think that it's necessarily one roster spot between them. I do think that both of them could end up on the team. We can play the roster game and go through the entire. Both of them could end up on the team. Also, there could be a situation where one of them's not on the team. And so, and the Ravens kind of looking for those guys, and they've been clear. They're looking for those guys to step up. Matt Elam, first round pick, Terrence Brooks, another high draft pick out of Florida State. He was a All-American player, and they have the athletic ability. They just need to kind of put it all together on the field. And this preseason is going to be important for them.
No doubt about it. Garrett Downey joining us here from Ravens.com. You can follow his journey out on Twitter at GDowning14 or at Ravens.com. And I know you and Ryan are putting together a little podcast here with Justin Tucker this week. That's the part of the game we don't worry so much about. I mean, Justin Tucker during this time of the year, he just goes out there and sort of shows off a little bit, right? I mean, it's almost like a gun show for the fans, right?
Yeah. Tucker, it's kind of crazy, like, at the stadium practices, there were some of the loudest cheers were for the kicker. And that's just kind of the nature of practice sometimes, but he's a fan favorite here. He's got one of the most engaging personalities on the team, if not the most engaging, and one of the bigger personalities in the NFL. Really interesting guy. And we try to bring that out a little bit when we sat down with him for the podcast. We got him to do a few impersonations. He broke out a Donald Trump impersonation and his Matthew McConaughey. So, you know it too, Nestor. You just kind of, it's fun to get to know these guys a little bit off the field. We can talk football all day long and X's and O's, team and all that kind of stuff. But it's also fun, especially when you have somebody with a personality of a Justin Tucker, to try to just get to know them a little bit off the field. What it's like to be a dad. What kind of stuff are you into? And that's what Ryan and I try to do on the podcast that's coming out this week. And we're really excited about it. It's called the Ravens Lounge. Our office, Nestor, it's like our office at the Castle is sort of like the unofficial stopping point for so many people as they move around the building and they come in there to talk shop. But, it's nicknamed the Lounge, so that's why we went with that name for the podcast.
Well, it's a little bit like a water cooler from what I've seen, but, sort of passing back and forth. Speaking of personalities, I told Brendan Williams the other day he should not be dancing for free because, he makes me want to make it rain. There should be dollar bills involved with dancing of this quality.
You can throw the dollar bills. I'll leave that up to you.
Well, it just depends on what the music is. I don't need to see any more Justin Bieber on the internet from him. And I let him know that there's a cool factor that he's going to jump the shark based on what he's dancing to.
That's fair. I mean, he's got some dance moves. I give it to him. He's it would be interesting to see who, if they had a little dance-off in the locker room, who would come out victorious in that competition.
You're too young to remember what's happening, but I mean, every time I see the big man with moves like that, I think a rerun. I mean, and right now somebody out there is laughing at that who finds that funny, but including my wife. But it is. Hey man, it's a preseason. We're talking about everything but injuries, which we don't want to talk about at this point. Let's talk about one last thing here. For the Ravens and watching Thursday's games and these god awful preseason games to most fans, running the football. I think we're going to see more of that, and certainly there are a lot of bodies in this camp, and we've heard a lot about Terrence West, and here's a guy here, hometown guy, trying to resurrect his career. Clearly he's been a knucklehead in several locations, but thus far for the Ravens, feels like he's got a real chance of making his team.
I think he does. He's been one of the shining stars of training camp, and obviously, like, every year there's a few guys that stand out, and then you get to the preseason games, and you got to prove yourself there, too. Now, he has real NFL games under his belt, so it's not like the stage of the preseason is going to be too big for him. But I think he absolutely has a shot to make the team, a real shot. And, some people think that he could challenge for the starting reps. I mean, Terrence West is a guy that was a third-round pick that was highly, highly productive in college and has all the attributes to be a good player. I mean, last year John Harbaugh basically said looks like a guy that's built to play running back, and I would agree with that. He has that mold that you love in an NFL running back in terms of his size and his speed, his ability to move. And he worked really hard this offseason, dropped a lot of weight down to about 215, lightest he's been during his professional career. So all of that is making a difference. Now, if I'm saying if week one is today and the Ravens are going out there and playing the Bills, Justin Forsett starter in my mind. And he's looked good too. I think a lot of times we have the tendency to talk about the new guy on the block, and who looks good, who that we haven't seen much of before, and we sort of forget about the veteran who we've seen every single day. Forsett to me looks good, but yeah, I do think Terrence West could absolutely make the team, and I'm just curious to see what the Ravens do with the running game. They've said, Mark Trestman has said that he wants to, be more efficient, more effective running the ball than they were last year, and that the offense is still going to be predicated on the running game. But at the same time, I just look at all the weapons in the receiving game, assuming the players who are injured get back healthy, and I'm like, where's the ball going to go? How is that going to get dispersed? How are you going to get touches for Wallace and Campanaro and Perriman if all those guys are healthy, and have enough carries for Justin Forsett and Kenneth Dixon? And I mean, it's a good problem to have, but I'm curious to see how it works itself out.
Only one football here for the next 4 preseason games, and plenty of backups, plenty of job battles, plenty of guys playing for their careers. Garrett Downing will be out covering all of that, as well as his podcast from the lounge with Ryan Mink. You can check that out of Ravens.com. Hey, man, you get really bored, you need somebody to talk. That's the only thing I'm really capable of doing is talking. Oh, I am capable of writing, and I dance a little bit, but talking's my thing. So we'll be checking that out at Ravens.com. I'll be checking you out at GDowning14 on Twitter. Garrett, always great catching up with you, man. Get some rest this week, right?
All right, yeah, you too, Nestor. We'll talk again soon. See you out of practice in the games.
I believe in hydration. There he goes. Garrett Downing, GDowning14 on Twitter at Ravens.com. You can find me out in the Bayou Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn radio app. We come in crystal clear. Big thanks to all of our friends at BayouToyota.com for being longtime sponsors of that and allowing everyone everywhere to enjoy their WNST. The morning newspaper reaches your email inbox at 7 a.m. each and every morning. That's powered up by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. And last but never least, breaking news happens first on the WNST Tech Service. Sign up for free at WNST.net. It is all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. You'll always be in the know. You'll always get it first. That's why more than 10,000 people are on the WNST Tech Service. And, of course, Dennis will be here on Thursday driving you home and getting you ready for Panthers and Ravens and the always important first preseason game. I am Nestor. You can find me anywhere the internet is served, from LinkedIn and Snapchat and Instagram and Facebook Live and our WNSTV YouTube channel. We are WNST.net AM 1570 and WNST Taos in Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.